Okay, what's up, everybody? Welcome back to Watch Darius TV. I'm back with another review, and I know I'm super late with this one, but I am doing a review of the Many Saints of Newark movie that came out last year, the Sopranos prequel, I think it was. Yeah, so let's start the review with this one. If you like this video, you already know, like, comment, subscribe, share the video, do all that stuff. I would say that like this video for more reviews and content on The Sopranos, but I don't think they're coming out with anything after this. Maybe a couple years from now, they might have another prequel movie. I don't know, but let's begin. So, The Many Saints of Newark was an interesting movie, and I say that about all my movies. It's interesting. That's my favorite word. But yeah, I felt like this would have been a lot better if this was a TV show. If they would have made a prequel of The Sopranos and it was a TV show, this would have been so much better. The Sopranos is too much of an in-depth TV show to have a prequel of it and it just be one movie. It's just not a good idea unless if you're going to make it about one character's origins. It doesn't work. Something like this. If it was maybe about Tony Soprano before his journey as to how he became mob leader, maybe. But taking origins of a couple different characters, just I love the intro with Chris narrating. I thought that was pretty good. I like that. Side note, not during COVID outbreak. I've been okay. So during the COVID outbreak, by the way, I binge watched the whole Soprano show. I've only saw like a few scenes on YouTube, kind of like how it was when I first started watching The Wire. I only saw like clips of it on YouTube before I actually ended up binge watching the whole show. 2 years ago when COVID happened and stuff like that, when I get off of work, I just sit up and binge watch The Sopranos because the whole world was shut down. We couldn't do nothing. So I spent the whole year binge watching the whole show. And let me see. I used to watch The Sopranos clipping before, so that's basically how I was able to catch up on all this stuff before The Sopranos movie came out. While I was binge watching it, I think I remember hearing that they were gonna come out with the main Saints of Newark. So during that time, I was just binge watching the whole show. And great show, by the way. But we're talking about many Saints of Newark. I see also they had the actress that plays Kanan's mom in that TV show Raising Kanan. So she was in this movie also. Shout out to her. I know I'm super late on Raising Kanan. I'm gonna get to that too. Also, I was gonna do a whole review of that series also coming up. So watch out for that. They had Corey Stahl playing as a young Junior Soprano. That was nice. He kind of looked like a young version of Junior. They had the actress Vera Farmiga. I can't pronounce her name very well. I'm sorry if she ever sees this. She probably won't. Playing a young Livia Soprano. That was interesting. She sounded just like her, so it didn't sound like an impression. Johnny and Junior getting arrested at the carnival was in the show. I like that connection to the series. Young Tony was hiding in the trunk though, so this one I think they kind of did things a bit different. I don't recall them ever getting into that part though, but yeah. Dickie's fight with his dad in the car. Then Tony ends up showing up. That was interesting. Dickie ends up killing his own dad in the car. That was interesting because it kind of reminded me so much of when Tony ended up killing Christopher in the car. So I don't know if that was what I was supposed to go for with that, but yeah, that was interesting how they had that happen. The little I thought it was pretty interesting. This shows you the time that the Sopranos take place in. They had a white man being able to drive in a car with a dead body in a passenger seat. That was crazy. I don't know how they allowed that to happen, but this story clearly takes place in a different time period. I don't know exactly which one, maybe the 70s or something. I think this takes place in. So that's pretty wild. Christopher's grandfather is killed by his dad in driver's seat. Yeah, so I already said that. Basically, yeah, I thought it was pretty crazy that Christopher's grandfather is killed by his dad in the driver's seat, kind of like how he ends up being killed in the driver's seat by Tony in the future. Like I said, I don't know if they did that intentionally. Was that supposed to be uh, a reference to how Christopher goes out in the series? I don't know. Even his grandfather had almost died the same way, getting you know headbutt into the windshield. I mean the windshield, but the steering wheel. I believe it was but yeah. So I guess that was supposed to be a reference to that. If anybody knows, comment below. Johnny Soprano, Tony's dad, it gets 2 to 5 years for assault as Livia cries. And I thought that was pretty hilarious. Dickie hooks up with his dad's wife right after he dies. Reminds me a lot of Tony hooking up with Christopher's side chick after Tony ended up killing Christopher. So I wonder, was that supposed to be also a reference to that? How that went down? Because everyone, Tony ended up around the series, the end of the series, he ended up hooking up with Tony's side piece he was with. So I wonder, was that supposed to be a reference to that? Curious. Tony gambling at school. He gambles in the future also, even though his father told him not to in The Sopranos as a child. So we see that clearly Tony wasn't listening. He was doing that as a kid, even though when he was, he was gambling in school as like a teenager. Even though his dad in a TV show told him as a kid to not gamble, but he was gonna. That shows that he wasn't even listening as a kid to not gamble. He was gambling as a teenager, and he ends up continuing to gamble as a grown man in the Sopranos show. So I like those parallels that they had in there. Young Silvio was balding during the torture scene we see. During the scene where they were torturing the one other mob guy and stuff like that in that the junkyard, not the junkyard, the car shop that they were in, whatever that the garage you're in. Silvio they see was balding because his hair flap came off. In his whole show, in the Soprano show, it never even seemed like he was balding. But then again, his hairpiece did look kind of fake. But I don't know. I guess he ended up getting a really good hairpiece in the Soprano show. So I don't know. But I didn't really like Paulie in the show, and he was a racist and kind of a douche in this movie also to Harold. So yeah, I never really cared about Paulie. I always thought Paulie was super annoying, and he was not really lovable in this prequel series movie either. So I don't know what to say about Paulie. Young Tony and his friends, they're smoking and cursing and stuff like that. I wonder, was that Artie? I'm assuming that was Artie with Tony in that scene where they were like, they hopped on a bus. I'm guessing that was supposed to be Artie with him. So young Artie Fuqua, I think that's his name. I don't know how to pronounce his name, but I'm guessing that was him because that's one of only Tony's friends that he has. The teenage Janice was kind of like the older Janice in a way, so not much to say about her. They kind of nailed that pretty well, young Janice. They did a really good job with nailing a lot of the younger versions of these characters, so I give them props for that. He don't have the makings, and then of course he had to throw in that the most overhyped line that Junior ends up saying at the dinner table when Tony was seeing baby Christopher, and then Junior says his line that he doesn't have the makings of a varsity athlete. I see that so much in the YouTube comments for Soprano videos, but I know they had to put that in there. They had to, so let them put that in there. All the fans were like, "Oh," but that was so annoying hearing that line because I heard it so much. But this is the first time they did anything with the Sopranos in years, so I could see they had to throw that in there. Tony sees baby Christopher and he's crying some, and then this one woman says, "Some babies know things from the other side." We know that's a hint about, that Tony, was in the future going to play a little game of "I got your nose," in the future with, Christopher when he ends up in that car and he ends up. So I know that was supposed to be a reference to that. So cool foreshadow, a little, heavy handed because we already know what, how Christopher goes out. So yeah. Dickie's mom, mother-in-law, and grandmother plotting to become a priest. That was part of my notes. I don't really remember a whole lot about that. His mother-in-law. Oh yeah, Dickie's. Oh yeah, mother-in-law, grandma. His mother-in-law girlfriend plotting to become a priest. Since I ain't seen this movie in a while, I probably should have rewatched it before I did this review. I don't know what to say about that. I thought it was kind of odd that she wanted to do that. I seem no one really respected Junior when he was the way. Okay, it seemed like also in this prequel nobody respected Junior. Like nobody really gave him any respect. Nobody really seemed to. Well, he did have more respect in the TV show, but it seemed like he had no respect here, which is the way that he became, which is how he was on the show. So they really did a good connection in connecting Junior to how he was in this prequel to how he is in the movies. So it does feel like a proper prequel. Like this is how he was originally when he was younger. So I dig that. Jackie Aprile, Tony, and Artie stealing an ice cream truck. Jackie was Tony's friend who got cancer in the show. So nice callback to that, throwing Jackie Aprile in there. I like the way they did that. Also them showing them young, getting into some criminal stuff. It's pretty interesting. I personally would have liked it better if Tony would have been probably similar to his son Anthony, showing that he was like, I would have liked that better if he acted like that in the prequels and then slowly became more of a mob influencer, not influencer, mob member. I thought that would have been a pretty good thing to show that he was similar to his son. Tony in the TV show hated the fact that his son most likely was never going to become like him, so I would have liked it better if Tony was originally just like Anthony when he was younger, before he ended up becoming who he was. I thought that would have been interesting, but they decided to give Tony some definitely some mob influence from a young age. You know, him gambling and fighting and stuff like that. Even though that fight scene he had in the phone booth was that wasn't anything gangster at all. That didn't look tough. In the trailer, they made it look tough. Then trailer, they did a good job of making it seem like it was a young Tony Soprano. When he get into that fight with that dude that called him a jerk off or whatever like that, and he wrestled with him. Yeah, that they really let us down. They really made us think that he was gonna really get that dude a butt whooping, but it didn't even. Yeah. Tony shoots Livia, in her Marge Simpson wig, sort of a reference to that talk that they had in The Sopranos. You already know when his dad ended up shooting his mom's part of her wig. So I like they threw that in there. They give Nan little references to stuff like that the fans like from the show. It's cool. Dickie's mother-in-law slash wife, I can't pronounce her name, Giuseppina. I don't know. I'm just gonna say her name is Gia, or Gina, because I just take out all them the extra words in the middle of that name, and it's just G and E. I'm just gonna call her Gina, because I can't pronounce that name for the life of me. Her sleeping with Harold, I did not see that coming at all. That was pretty crazy. She's sleeping with her husband's old employee, now rival, so I didn't see that coming. Dickie wanted to be a saint and to be a coach for blind kids. That was what he originally wanted to do before he ended up becoming into the mob. So, or I guess that's what he wanted to do. I don't remember, but yeah, that was pretty wild. Dickie and his team knocking out Harold's friend's teeth. Wow, yeah, that was a pretty crazy scene. When they got that power tool and put that in his mouth. That was some wild stuff. Real old school mobster movie type of death they gave him. The teacher telling Livia about her reading to Tony was good. The highlight of the movie was Harold's team versus Dickie's team in that shootout. That was pretty much the only real gangster thing about this movie. I wish you could have added in some more type of gang shootouts or something like that. I don't know, but that was the best scene of the movie, really. And for a mob movie, that's all they really had. But the TV show didn't have a whole lot of mob shootouts and nothing like that. They put it in mostly towards like throughout the show, but not a lot. Livia talking about medicine and people being sick in the head is funny because Tony has issues and Livia goes to get sick. So it's pretty interesting. She said that little foreshadow, showing how oblivious she is to medicine and any stuff like that and mental illness. She just shows how little she knows about anything. Then Olivia says the catchphrase that she says in the TV show "Oh poor you," which is the same thing that Tony's crazy girlfriend had ended up said in the show too. That's her catchphrase, so they still throw that in there. They throw in a bunch of references to the TV show, certain little tidbits that Easter eggs from the TV show that only fans will be able to notice. I like how they did that. Like I said, I didn't like this prequel, but I do like how they threw in little references and things to the show. Like I said, I always felt that anybody if you see the show Ray Donovan, the TV movie that they had, that was a perfect prequel movie that they did with throwing in little references to origins. I love the way they did the Ray Donovan movie. This movie I wish would have did similar to Ray Donovan movie, but the movie wasn't really all that good, but I did like the Easter eggs from the TV show that they did in this movie. At the funeral, Junior tells Tony they will play catch. I like that as a reference to Tony saying that he used to play catch with Junior used to say he used to play catch with Tony on a TV show, so I had made a reference to that too, throwing in these little tidbits. I love that. Tony wondering what his uncle and his friends talk about at the funeral, gangster stuff, he'll be doing in the future. So, that's a cool little Easter egg or, foreshadow of who he ends up becoming in the future. He goes from being a kid, seeing gangsters talking about gangster stuff at a funeral, to him eventually having these people work for him. Interesting. The funeral was for Big Pussy's dad, by the way. So Big Pussy's dad was the one that ended up getting shot in the face during that gang shootout. When I was also thought it was pretty interesting when Big Pussy is shot in the Sopranos. Wait, no, that's not his name. His son says that he doesn't want to get shot in the face. So during the earlier in the series in the Sopranos, when Pussy was on the boat, he didn't want Tony, uh, Paulie, and Silvio to shoot him in the face. I guess that was a reference to his father getting shot in the face in this movie. So I love that connection. That was a good connection he put in there. Because we never really understood that. He just simply just didn't want to get shot in the face then, but we understand why now because of this movie. So clever on the writer's part. I like that. Dickie's girl tells him, Gina basically tells him he slept with Harold, and which is his rival and stuff like that in this movie, and he calls him the N word. Then he ends up drowning her. That was another crazy scene. The highlighted movie was the shootout, and this was the second highlighted movie. I didn't think that he was going to end up drowning her and leaving her there. That was crazy. Another highlighted movie. Dickie's uncle tells him to stay away from Tony so he doesn't end up becoming like him, but it's his fate. We know that Tony ends up becoming the big mobster guy, so. It kind of also reminded me of, has anybody ever seen the TV show Sons of Anarchy? Spoiler alert if you don't want to know the ending of that, but Jack's sons end up, eventually following the footsteps of his dad, and that's not what he wanted, but it ends up happening anyway. So this scene reminds me of that too, when Dickie's uncle tells him to stay away from Tony, but we all know that Tony ends up becoming who he is anyway. Young Carmela has a cameo when she's talking on when I think Tony was getting some beers or whatever like that for him and her and some dude that they were with, and then he ends up in a trailer calling Tony a jerk off or whatever like that, and they wrestle. I like they throw in Carmela in there. I wish they could have had more interaction between the two, something like that. That can show that they were going to end up becoming lovers in the future, but they just kind of threw her in there as a cameo. So something's better than nothing. I wish I could have more interaction, but Tony's phone scene trying to talk to Dickie, but gets ignored. Tony becomes his gangster side. When he's on that phone talking, Tony asks Sil about Dickie, and it shows how the power and respect changes in the future because Sil. Okay, so yeah, so then there's that scene where Tony is trying to get in contact with his uncle, and Sil is working for his uncle Dickie at the time. And Tony asks about it, and Sil just sort of tells him that hey, look, I don't know where he is, kid. You got to go on someplace. It's interesting because in the future, Sil is going to be the one working under Tony. So it comes from being a kid that he don't work for, that he don't have to listen to. He's working for his uncle. Now he ends up working under this guy. It's pretty interesting how that goes. I like that. But still respectful of Tony though. So. And I guess Tony was beginning to show his quote unquote gangster side at the phone booth scene, but we know that was just a hint. But he's still a kid at this. He's still a teenager here, so he's not. He didn't really show too much of his more gangster side. He just did a little bit of petty stuff like stealing an ice cream truck. I wish he could have shown more of his gangster side. Like I said, this is where the Ray Donovan movie did a better job at being like a prequel than this was. But young Silvio felt like an impression. I didn't really like the way the actor played young Silvio. I just wasn't feeling him. The things of ours. Silvio saying to Dickie. Silvio is the voice of reason. Tony says this to Junior in the finale of the series. The quote, "This thing of ours." So I like to make a reference to that when Silvio was talking to Dickie. Junior having Dickie killed all over him, laughing at him falling. I really thought that would be Harold, and I really thought Harold and his crew would have been the one to kill Dickie off, but ended up being Junior this whole time. Junior did have a guy kill him for a joke in the Sopranos TV show. Remember when he was going to have some dude killed, and he had his employee killed the dude instead in the car. So that shows you how insecure Junior is, that he was the one that ended up killing Dickie. That's crazy. Wasn't what I expected, but yeah, I wasn't really expecting him to go out like that. Dickie's death brought the birth of Tony, the uncle I would go to hell for. Yeah, so it shows that this death ended up creating Tony Soprano. After sleeping with his boss's wife and having a short gang war, Harold just lives now and has a white man working for him. I wonder, does Dickie and his team ever get revenge on Harold? Do they ever think that he's the one that killed Junior? I mean, that killed Dickie. I don't know. This movie kind of goes on without it, and I don't know if my video is going to shut down, so I'm going to make this quick. The prequel would be better for a TV series, like I said. I was really hoping to see a young young Filiatardo, Ralph Sigaf, I can't pronounce his name, Ralphie, or maybe like a young Richie Aprile. Would have loved to see that, but they didn't give us that. So I thought this movie was decent. I feel like it could have been better. I give it a 1 out of 4 stars. I think they could have made this a TV show. Would have been a lot better. Please, writers, make a Sopranos prequel TV series. I'm gonna have to cut this video off right now because I don't know if my video is gonna shut off. But yeah, if you like this video, like, comment, subscribe, share the video. Sorry, I gotta cut this off real quick because I don't know if my video is gonna end soon. So yeah, this movie would have been a lot better if it was a prequel series. So thanks for watching my video.